in the playground. Oh, we just started recording. We should have been recording. Sorry. Yeah. So we're going to take the sample input in DataWeave Playground for the Advent of Code challenge. And I don't like how Zoom does that. Zoom got in my way. And paste it in here. So you see now, let's say I just do sample input here. It's just going to print it out in JSON. So that's what happens. So here we are, right? And you guys are going to help me code this. So how do we get, let's just start with line 1. Let me do that. Okay, so we're going to, who can help me get line, let's see my DataWeave Playground, close this. My DataWeave Playground gave me one big long string, right? But what I want is just line 1. So anybody, how can I do that? So you can put in the chat some DataWeave code if you want, or you could raise your hand and you can talk me through it, or you just come off mute. How are we going to just get line 1 out of this?
Ryan, do we need to use the function reduce, where item can give the first value?
We can do with reduce, but if in order to have reduce, the input has to be a collection, right? And this input, so if I did reduce right now, so like reduce could be item. I see another example in 2 examples in the chat. We'll do those next, right? And I'll make the accumulator an array, right? Like that. We could use reduce but look what the items are going to be. So ACC, it'll be, yeah, ACC plus, I'm going to use like this item. The items are letters. See, if you reduce a string, it feeds you letter by letter by letter by letter. So that's probably not the best way to split the lines up. We want to split the lines up a different way. So I'm going to take out reduce. Reduce is a very powerful function. So in general, when you think in your head reduce, hold yourself back and say like, wait a minute, do I need to use a chainsaw to cut a toothpick in half? Hold on, let me think about it, right? Because reduce is super powerful, but it's not always the best tool for the job, right? Yeah. Yeah, so it's always going to work. Basically, if you have any collection problem in Mule ever, in DataWeave ever, reduce is going to work. Yeah, so I think that's always the easy answer. But let's find a more. So I have 2 more examples: split by, /n, split by, and then sub-0. I don't. So we could change the input type. Ooh, that's another neat. So we have 2. I'm going to do both of them. Okay, so we'll start with split by, but split by isn't going to take a backslash /n, because /n, there's no /n's, right? We get, because either \n. So I'm going to have to change the backslash, and that would work. That totally works, right? So one way to do it. So I always do this in DataWeave. I have a way to try different solutions. So solution 1 is that, right? And then solution 2, oh wait, solution 2 is, I can probably do it with the read function, Shayna. Oh no, Whitney, that was Whitney. I don't know why I thought it was Shayna. Shayna said, hello, Muleys. Shayna, put in the chat, and everybody else who joined, put in the chat where you're coming from and what your level of experience is with DataWeave. We're going to try Whitney's solution, which in order to do it, you could totally change it right here, but that's not code. That's clicking on my playground. So in order to do it in code, I can just read the sample input using application CSV, right? So that's another way to sort of take advantage of DataWeave. Ooh, what did that do? Oh, it used the first line as a column header. Well, we don't want to use the first line as a column header, but it kind of, that was a very creative way to think about it, right? And we could just make this like add to our input lines like that. Look at that. See, not too bad. Yeah. So I'm going to go back to that because I want to keep the input exactly like I got from Advent of Code, right? So there we go. So I think I'm going to use solution 1. And whenever I find something like that, what I tend to do in Advent of Code challenges is I want to kind of keep my work from step to step in variables. So I'm going to make a variable lines is equal to that, right? And now I can just put lines down here. Now we're a little closer. Now remember what our challenge is. We want to get the first digit and the last digit. So why don't we start with half of that? Why don't we try not to do the whole thing in one big step, right? So how can we get the first digit in our lines? So let's just do line 1. Let me start with that, and then we'll try to generalize to all of our lines. So let's do lines sub 0. Now I just have 1, right? So if I use square bracket indexer syntax, I can just get one of my array items, right? So now how are we going to get the first digit out of that? So I got one ABC. So I guess a very easy way to do it, which is not the right way, is I could just take the first character, which happens to be the first digit, 1. But you guys know that's probably not going to work, right? Because look at my other lines. They don't start with a number. So I got to skip some stuff, right? How am I going to get the first digit out of those lines instead of the first? So why don't I do this? Lines map, let's do this. Let's make a function called first digit, right? That takes a line. And right now I'm just going to return the line, which obviously doesn't work. And I'm going to use the map function. So in DataWeave, map says do the same thing for every item in an array. So I got 4 items here. I'm going to use map line, right? So whenever you use any, in DataWeave, you have infix functions. Map takes 2 parameters, the one on the left and the one on the right. And the one on the right can be a lambda. That's called a lambda. And, I could just use $sign and it would work, which just means the unnamed first parameter. But a lot of times you don't like that style because even, you let anybody else read your code, they don't know it's punctuation. It's hard to understand. So you can name the parameter like this line, right? And now it'll work, right? And I can do anything to the line watch. I could uppercase it, right? I could do, line is a new parameter for what happens for every item. Now, a lot of languages have map. So what I want to do for every line is I'm going to call first digit on the line, okay? So now I just need my first digit function to get me the first digit. Well, how are we going to do it? Welcome aboard, Florida and Omaha, Shana and Mark. How do I get, so I want to get the first, so digits are characters, right? So you do want to be thinking of strings as a big long thing full of characters. And so some characters are digits and some characters are not digits. And I wonder how we can tell them apart and go get one digit. Anybody know any way to figure out if a character is in a certain desirable list of characters? So I'm going to show you guys a little something so you can figure out how to solve the problem. Let's go to see at the bottom of the playground, there's an API reference, right? Now DataWeave's got a core library and it's right there at the bottom of the playground. I do like that about coding with the playground. If you're in the CLI or Visual Studio Code, you can always go to docs.mulesoft.com/DataWeave, and now you get the core library documentation there too. So there's DataWeave reference. I'm going to show you the arrays here and the strings. So we're going to look at those. So I'm going to go back to here and we're going to go down and look. Let's start with strings. I would normally start with strings. I might do arrays too, but there's a DataWeave core library for string functions. So there's some in the core library and those are useful, but here's the strings library, helper functions for strings. So I have append if missing, camelize. Let's go through here, see if there's anything. I wonder what first does. First returns characters from the beginning of the string. No, that's not right. That gives me a certain number of characters. Oh, look at these. Is alpha is numeric? Those look handy, right? map string. Yeah, I could put a comment. So what we are doing overall, thanks, Whitney, find the first right now. So we are solving Advent of Code 2023, this day one, part one, right? Which means we need to sum up the calibration. What was it called? They're just making it up. Calibration values. It's something they made up. Values in our puzzle input, right? And find calibration values for a line means, so let me like do this, do that, right? Because we're down the stack, right? Now, in order to do that, we need to find the first numeric character, which I'm calling a digit, in each line. That's what we're trying to do now. Filter where it's between 0 and 9. Yep, that sounds good to me. How do we do between on a character? So you're using filter. Is there like a... So let's do that. Let's do that. So let's start with filtering. Line filter. Now let's use, you want to do between. Line filter car, where car greater than equal 0, like that. And car less than equal 9. Is that what you're thinking, Flavio? Yeah, that didn't do too bad. Right? That wasn't too bad. So now we didn't get the first digit, we got all the digits. But at least that's closer, right? So now how do we get the first one? You guys can unmute. We have a small enough group. I'll stop you if you're not. Can they unmute? Oh, maybe they can't unmute.
They should be
Okay,
able to.
okay.
Whitney, can you confirm if you can unmute?
How do we
Yes,
get?
yes.
Okay,
We
great.
can hear.
Great.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Thank-
now we have digits. Yay. We just want one of them, the very first one. So what I'll usually do while you guys are thinking, I'll take this part and I'll make that into a function, right? So this is going to be get digits of line, right? And I'll make another function, get digits, what we just did, right? Uh-oh. Apparently I didn't copy it, I just deleted it. There we go. So now we have a get digits function. It's a little easier to read. So what are we gonna do with these digits? We need to get the first one, right? So how can I get the first? Good, Gaurav, thanks. Gaurav says use the indexer. Oh my gosh, now we did it. Now we have a way to get the first digits. Woo, all right, good. Now the calibration values in Advent of Code is the first digit and the last digit in that order. So let's do that, right? So we need first digit plus plus. That's a way to concatenate characters, right? Last digit of line, which we don't have a function called that. So help me write this last digit function. See how I like the REPL. As soon as you type something, you see what it does. Well, we're not done. How do we get the last digit?
I use -1, right, in the array instead of 0.
So the same, so get digits line, right?
Yeah,
And use -1,
yeah.
12, 38, 15, 77. Let's go see. 12, 38, 15, 77. Hey, we're almost there. Now we need to add them together to get 42. Now we have a problem adding them together, right? These are not numbers, right? So let me actually do this one. Let's take this whole function here and make a new var, since we just got kind of another milestone, right? So we're going to use var calibration values of lines, right, is equal to that thing. Calibration of values is just equal to lines times that. Okay, good. And now I'll put instead, so I'm just naming what we just did. There we go. So now we have calibration values. We are on our way. Now we need to sum them up. So I could just try to innocently type sum of calibration values. Oh, it worked. I think it coerced, and I wish it didn't. It's funny. I get a little warning down here, right? Expecting type number, but got string, right? So what I don't want to do, even though it happened to work because of type coercion. Okay, raise your hand. What's type coercion? Type coercion just did that for us. What is that? What is a type coercion? Anybody know? And that's not just DataWeave. That's all kinds of languages have type coercion. So what is type coercion? It just happened to us, right? I have a red underline here, but I have a number over here of the right answer. So how did the heck? That's magic. Anybody? Let's look it up. Type coercion. Type coercion refers to the process of automatic or implicit conversion of values from one data type to another. So apparently, type coercion in DataWeave, let's see if it has that. Boom, there's a whole documentation page about it. In DataWeave, types can be coerced from one type to another using the as operator. Well, apparently, it also happens without the as operator if you if you pass numbers strings to the sum function. It seems to have done it for us without the as operator. I wish it told. Okay, here we go. It'll tell us. So string to number. Here we go, and it's locale specific. So that's what happened. We had our strings turned into numbers. Let's go ahead and do a little DataWeave lesson here about that, though. I don't want to. So there's another function called SumBy. Unable to resolve reference of SumBy. I think that's in arrays. So I'm going to go to my API reference, and we're going to go to the arrays library. Here we go. Count by, divide by. Lots of good stuff in the arrays library. SumBy returns the sum of the values of the elements in an array, and you can tell it how to determine what the number is, right? So let's do that. Let's rewrite this automatic conversion by using an import. So DataWeave has imports. I was trying to find a way to use one. SumBy from arrays, DW core arrays. So that's the library we were just reading the documentation for, right? So we're going to use SumBy, and we're going to use SumBy with SumBy, I don't know, calibration value. And we're going to use calibration value as number. So we're going to force it to be a number. And that in case we wanted to parse it a certain way or whatever. So now we don't get any warnings, right? So now we've got our answer. Now what we would do is take our answer and apply it to our sample input, which is all this stuff, right? So I'm going to copy paste my sample input. When you do your own advent of code, you won't have my same sample input. So this is not going to help you win. You still got to code it yourself, you know? So let's go do it. I'm going to go back and I'm going to make my real input. And advent of code always has two parts, and I'm not ever sure if I'm going to get different input. I think they don't always give two inputs, but just in case, I'm going to call it puzzle input 1 in case there's 2, which I don't think there is in this one, but you know, I've done it a couple of years now, and I'm used to advent of code's tricks. So there's all that 1,000 lines of input. Okay. So all we're going to do is we're going to change our lines to puzzle input 1. And it did the same code, and now we have 54,632. So in Advent of Code, what you do is you take that answer and you go back and you paste it in a little box and you submit to see if it's right or wrong. And then they record how long it takes you to do that. So it's like a race, kind of. Some of you may know about my AnyPoint race. You can see I was inspired. So it's like, how fast can you do it? So I got 54,632. Well, guess what we just got? 54,632. That's puzzle input number 1. So hooray, we got the first one done. Now let's do part 2 of the puzzle. So it's like, uh-oh, we just did the easy part. Now, it turns out our calculation isn't quite right. It looks like some of the digits are actually spelled out with letters. TWO, SEVEN, and those are digits too. So a line like this one, 219, should be actually the number, see, 219 should be 29. 823 should be 83. So let me take this new input, sample input 2, and let's do that together. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to make another input here. Sample input 2. Great. And I'm going to do this with text, and we're going to paste it. All right. And let's go back and change our code. Of course, it's not right. Sample input 2. Ooh, it's even broken. It's bad. Why is it bad? Some by line 11. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the calibration values without. So let me do this. Because I want to see a good error. So I'm going to do like this. Puzzle 1 is that, comma, puzzle 2 is just the calibration values that we get back. And I'm going to comment out puzzle 1. Okay, calibration values doesn't even work. So it's trying to add the first digit with the last digit. So let's just get first digit of dollar of lines. Wait a minute, I didn't do that right. Oh, I have to map the lines like we did in calibration values, right? Lines, map, line, first digit line. There we go. Oh, look what happened. Why does line 2 have a null? First digit gives me a null on line 2. And it gives me, so I think we found our issue. We need to fix our first digit function. Anybody, so what's wrong with there's 2 things wrong with it. It should never give us a null. Well, so why does line 2, why does line 2 give me a null for first digit? There's a lot of numbers. There's 8, there's 2, and there's 3. Flavio said there's no number. I like that, Gaurav. Skip null on everywhere. That will not win in our challenge. It'll make the null go away, right? So what is that? Go ahead, Gaurav. Where do I put skip null on everywhere?
After output application JSON.
Let's see what that does. Just because it's good learning for everybody, right? So everybody equal, I think you have to put equal true, right?
Yes.
No. Is it skip null on values? Oh, now I got to look up the documentation. It says it's not valid. Or somebody knows what I'm doing wrong, tell me, but I'm gonna go look it up. Language guide, formats, JSON. So you can pass arguments. This is good for study group. When you make an output type, you can pass arguments to it to say, when you make your JSON, do it this way or that way. So he was saying, skip null on what? Skip null on equals everywhere. Very good. Let's do that. So skip null on, we're going to pass a equals everywhere. Oh boy. You know, I don't like it because what happened? It got rid of the null. It also got rid of the whole line, didn't it? Now we have 6 lines instead of 7 lines. So I'm gonna get rid of that. We don't need that one. But that is really, in our transformation, sometimes that's the best thing to do. So that was good learning there, but I'm gonna comment that out. We got the null back. So how are we gonna we're gonna have to solve the real problem here. So the real problem in puzzle 2 is, what's the actual new real problem? I love admin of code because there's many solutions to every real problem, right? So I don't have the only best one solution to this. I have a bunch of ways we could do it. So that's why you guys are going to pick one. We're going to work it out. So the real problem is, oh, let me change these comments, right? We did this one. That's done. We found the calibration values for a line for, oh, so part 2 for a line. So the next problem here is, in order to find calibration values for a line, we're going to find first digit, whether it is numeric or it is a English word. Now we have that problem, right? Anybody have any idea how to do that?
I'll only offer, Ryan, that I feel like you need an array or a collection of these English words for each of the numbers.
That's a good way to do it. So let's make that. I'm gonna make an object. So var, I'm gonna call it number words. I think that's actually what I called it last night myself. I did it that way. I thought of another way after that using number formatting, Java number formats, but I'm not gonna do that. We'll just do number words equals, and you make an object. So an object is a collection, right? So we're gonna make one yields one, right? Because I want to colon. I want to translate the word one, and I want the value to be one. And in DataWeave all the time, I do lookup tables like this, where the keys of an object are what I'm starting with, and the values of the object is what I want back. In transformations, I have to map yes, no to Boolean, or true, or a YN to, so that kind of translations, I make these little lookup tables. So good idea, David. Let's do that. 2, 3, 3, sometimes you have this busy work part of integration, right? Where you're just building a little lookup table, right? And it's okay, 5. I could even have put it as an input over here. Why don't we do that this time? Instead of a var number words equals that, I'm going to backspace all this, because why not? Make a number lookup table as a CSV. That'll be fun. Ooh. And we're going to have the word, and we're going to have the number. So now I do 1, 1, 2, 2. You could do this in Excel. I do that with my customers sometimes, because you'd be surprised how many people like Excel. I'm typing it here, but better catch my spelling errors, folks. Right as soon as I said that, I made a spelling error. So that's what I need. Oh, I need 0, right? I'm gonna need 0. All right, so let's do this. Number lookup is number lookup table. Okay, so word 0, number 0. Okay, now that's not good, because well, it's not bad because we already have a way to turn those into, right? We can already turn those into numbers. So we've got a number lookup table. Great. That's a good start. What are we going to do with it? And I want to go back to my input because I want to show you something tricky here. I want to show you guys, I ran into this myself. Look at this line here. 1 and 8 are sharing the letter E, which is very dangerous for our project, right? If we decide to do a string replace, we're only going to replace 1 or 8. We're not going to replace both of them, are we? Because they both share the letter E. But from the left, 1 is the first number, and if you go from the right, skipping the numbers, of course, but if you go from the right, 8 is the first number of the words. So you can imagine there's probably stuff in our input, like it happens here with 2 and 1. See that? TWONE. It's very tricky. So we don't want to blindly replace all the English words with numbers, do we? We want to start on the left and go to the right until we find an English word or a number, right? So how can we do that? How can we start on the left and go to the right, right? So I've got my input again. Here's my lines. And let me just show you my lines again. So let's start with the very first one should give me a 2. I want a 2. The very second one should give me an 8. So let's solve that much of the problem. Let me make my number lookup. How about I do this var? So I'm going to do like this. I need to be able to recognize if the string starts with one of those words. Anybody have any ideas on that? How can I recognize that? So I want yes, yes, no. Yes, no. I mean, no, no. Actually, I want 2 yeses and a whole bunch of no's. Let's try that. Let's recognize our words. So what I'm going to need to do that is a starts with, and I'm going to need to have the words from here. So how can I get, let me show you guys that one. Number lookup table. Number lookup table. How can I go through this whole list and just take the words out of it? I probably need to translate this thing into a lookup, right? So how can we just get the words out of this whole number lookup table?
There should be a DataWeave function, right?
Hmm?
There should be a DataWeave function. I don't know which one. It might be keys of, something like that.
Well,
Try to-
if I already had an object, yeah, there is one. And I did that myself last night. I'll go look that one up with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not an object, it's an array right now. But let's say
Oh,
it was
okay.
an object. In objects library, there's one called key set and one called name set, and they're a little bit different, but they would both work. It's also got a really interesting one, some entry. Returns true if one entry matches. That's a really cool function. I'll let you guys work with that. But let's do what Whitney was saying. Key set will give me all the key names out of an object.
Yeah.
Now, the issue is we don't have an
I'm gonna
object.
mute again. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. So I don't have an object. What do I have? How do I know that I don't have an object? Who noticed that? You can see in my, so I put number lookup table here on line 27, and my output on the right gives me what comes out. Number lookup table, I said, oh, that's not an object. How did I know? Whitney says I have an array. So how does Whitney know I have an array instead of an object?
You know, you have an array by the square brackets.
Yeah, there it is, line 11. That little square bracket is the tip off, right? And the commas. Yeah. So DataWeave, the main 2 collection objects are arrays and objects. Those are it. It's not like we have sets and trees and hash tables. We have like 2 collections, objects and arrays, and that's all. And the way you know is the square bracket. So now I want to find out if this array has any objects where the word matches the beginning of the string, right? So I need to first get all the words out, right? So how can I start with an array full of objects and end up with an array full of strings? Anybody know that DataWeave function? We've used it once. How do I turn one array into another array? This is like one of the base transformations we need to do. There you go, Salini. All right, map. So let's do it. Let's do number lookup table map. Now what do I want from, so let me do this row. I'm going to call it a row. What do I need from the row? Instead of the whole row, what do I want? Because I just want the words, right? How do I get the words? Row.word, right? Boom. Look at that. Now we have an array of words. We can work with that, right? So now what I want to do is I want to check, now that I have the words out of the array, I want to see if my line starts with one of those, right? So I'm going to take this whole thing I just did, and I'm going to make a function again. Probably a var is fine. If I don't need any parameters, for 0 arg functions, I like to just make vars. So we'll do this. Number words is equal to that thing. See, it really are similar. A var and a function with 0 arguments, they're like the same thing, right? Because they return something. So number word, go ahead.
Are you looking for the word at the first of the string, or are you looking for the first instance of the word?
I want to start at the beginning of the string, and if it starts with one of these words, then I've already found my number, right? And if it doesn't, like on line 3, I'm going to have to go to the next letter and start from there, and then go to the next letter and start from there, right? So we're going to do that together. So first, I just need, does it start with one of these?
So you're saying that there's not a DataWeave function to just find in that.
No, there is. We could do that, but the thing with that that approach, here I skipped that option because of these lines. If I find in, I'm going to find 1, and I'm going to find 8, and they're overlapping. See that? So it's dangerous. You could accidentally find the wrong one.
You actually want the first. You want
At the left side, yeah. So we're going to use recursion, but I'm working up to that. So we're going to start at the beginning and say, does this line, so let's just do yes, no, okay? So let's do lines, map. And I
Ryan,
want,
sorry to interrupt you.
yeah,
I'm just asking for the knowledge purpose. What is the function which finds the word?
the function which finds it, the one David was talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go find that. That's good. That's good. So in this, there's a couple. There in core. So DataWeave core has contains, and you can give contains a string, and it'll say, does a string contain a given substring? So that's the easiest, the most simple one. I can say, here, let's do it that way, right? Number of words. So I don't want number word. Yeah, I do. Number of words, map, word, word. Now the thing is, I need a yes, no for the line. So lines, map, line. Now I want to do for each line. Well, I need to know if, this is why I didn't do this approach. If I just see if any word is in the line, then I haven't. So I would do line contains, and I have to check all the number words. So I'm going to go back to add another function so I can do that. So I can show you contains. We're going to have to go make use of an arrays function called sum. Sum says, does anything in this array match another condition? So we're going to do sum. So I'm going to say number words sum. So does any number word, some word, right? Now I would say line contains word. And it doesn't know what sum is, so let's go get it. There we go. So I added an import. So of course all the lines contain a word, right? But it doesn't tell us the first one. So I didn't go that way. We're not going to do a contains check because, yeah, they contain lots of them. But we need the very first one that's in there, not just any one, right? So we're going to go back. We're going to go back. Now we're almost there, though. We're almost there. So instead of checking contains, we're going to check, does it start with the word? How about that? So let's go find our functions. In core, is it core? I think it's in core. We have starts with. See, so a string starts with another string. Gives me true if one string starts with another string. So let's use that one. So line starts with. Now we can get somewhere with this one. And it's because we can recurse. So I'm going to show you that. But we have 2 lines that start with a word. Now, if they do, we're going to have to get the number, right, for that word. And we already have a lookup way to do that. And if it's not, then we're going to have to go to the next letter, right? And we're going to have to get the ones that have a number at the beginning too. So that's the whole challenge of part 2. But I'm at halfway through our study group. So we aren't going to finish the challenge yet. We're going to do Q&A now. Right, Whitney? We got to go to Q&A time because we only have so much time together. So let's do this. I know it's fun, guys. I love admin of code. It's a lot of fun. Present again. So there we go, DataWeave Q&A. So I'm going to start. You guys have probably come here having faced some DataWeave challenges of your own. So bring them out. Let's do them. And if not, I've got Shyam's DataWeave puzzles, and you guys can participate in those. And I'm going to issue a little challenge. Let me do this. I'm going to start something for just for the advent of code thing. We are going to start an IQ leaderboard. And you guys are the only ones invited right now. Everybody else has to wait. So what we do is we make a private leaderboard. I'm going to make one. I have a private leaderboard that only, oh, well, you guys are invited to my private leaderboard that has some of my other friends on it because you're here in my study group. So this is not an IQ leaderboard. This is my own Ryan Haig leaderboard. But since you're my friends and you're here, I'm going to put Ryan's leaderboard in the chat, and you can join it with your advent of code, and we can see how you do, and you can get on here with me. So come on, join my leaderboard. It's in the chat after you join advent of code. And now we're ready for our Q&A time. So, all right. So who wants to get us started? Give me you. So my goal here is that you get better at DataWeave. So what's something that's puzzling you? What's a challenge you have at work? Some kind of gnarly flat file COBOL thing, or or encryption, or binary stuff, or do you have any, like, what are we doing? What kind of things do you want to know about DataWeave?
So, so Ryan, I'm gonna make a comment instead of a question.
Yeah.
I feel, okay, so I've written code in many different computer languages, and it's and just like you were saying, you were doing the arrow function in that language. Okay, I'll say that language. Like right now, I'm learning TypeScript because I found out that there was a better solution to something I was doing in JavaScript, and it just happened to be done in TypeScript. And so I'm unfamiliar with some of the, I guess, the constructs of the language. It's like I know to go look in the documentation for DataWeave if I'm having an issue. I know to go looking for certain kinds of functions, and they're named differently than
Yeah.
other languages, right? And so it's like, how can you quickly, come up to speed? Because let's say, I know I'm going into something and it's going to be heavy. It's going to be heavy DataWeave, right? And I want to, and let's say I'm getting ready to do a new gig, and they're interviewing me, and they want to know, how familiar are you with DataWeave? Well, I'm kind of doing the dance, right? Talking about it because there's so much
There's a lot. Yeah.
there's so much, and I'm always wondering. It's like this advent of code thing was cool because I wrote it down, and there was another thing that I did. It was like crypto challenge for Rust.
Yeah.
So I was using Rust, and it was, basically doing, I think the challenge is, I think having the problems to work on that are out there on the internet publicly is what I think you need to do it. It's like throw everything else out. And if you're going to be doing DataWeave, then you ought to start doing this, doing these challenges to.
Yeah, and advent of code challenges are a little more involved. That's why I was going to bring up DataWeave. These are going to be a little more simple challenges. So let me go find, where's the DataWeave Fun? I'm trying to find he used to put these little polls up. Oh, here's one. See, they're like, so yeah, you don't have to just go to advent of code once a year. Shyam's been posting these transformation puzzles on DataWeave Fun on LinkedIn. So it's another good resource for that, like David's saying. And I was just talking to Derek, who's also in this meeting this morning. There's one thing when you're learning by reading stuff, right, with blog. And I don't personally do that much anymore. I get as fast as I can from reading something to hands-on making something. You're going to learn a lot more by doing it than you are by reading it, right? So go find little challenges that you have, even, and I hear from many people, oh, I don't have hours to spend on programming at night when I work all day. You could do 20 minutes on a lunch break or a Saturday morning when you first woke up and you're scrolling Twitter or Facebook, right? I mean, you all have 20 minutes here and there. You know what I mean? So you pull up a little puzzle and you work on a little, so this is a little puzzle, right? So how are we going to do this one? How would we, like, if you just woke up on Saturday morning and you're trying to decide and you decide, I'm going to do a DataWeave puzzle, and this is what comes across your laptop. And you can think of it, you need to think of it functionally. This is DataWeave is a functional language. So David had a good point. You're learning TypeScript, you're learning Rust. Those languages have this option to do imperative stuff where you can make a for loop and you can put 18 in an array and then you can put 7 in a variable and you can update. Not in DataWeave. DataWeave doesn't have mutable variables, right? I can't change the value of a variable. I'm stuck with only making a pure function that outputs something based on my input. So we saw some tools this session already that we could use for that. In fact, I think I'm gonna, can I call you out? I think Prakash, you reached for a very powerful tool at the beginning. Anybody remember what Prakash tried to use? This is it.
Yeah, I was just saying that if it works.
Yeah, I think this is one of those problems. There might be a fancy arrays function or something, but. So what is reduce? You want to tell what yeah, Salini, remember too. What does reduce do? I'm going to work my way through this array left to right. That's whenever you want to go left to right through something, reduce can do that, right? So what's it going to do when you process reduce? Let's make another playground and do it, huh? Let's do a playground and let's take his input. I don't think I can copy paste it. This is going to be fun. So I'm going to screenshot it. There we go. I'm gonna put that on my other screen. And we're gonna make our input. And I think I'm just gonna keep the JSON this time. JSON's a little annoying. Reason JSON is I have to put quotes around the keys. I think I'm gonna use CSV after all. So this is going to be actually, why don't I just use text and do lines? Very simple, right? So 18, 7, 55, 8, 19, 20, 98, 39, 45, and sample input. There we go. Split by \n. There we go. We got our array, right? So good. And this is our var DataWeave fun puzzle 21. There we go. All right, so we've got our array. So let's go back to the puzzle. You guys want to use reduce. Okay, so we need to, when you're thinking reduce, you're thinking go left to right, take one thing at a time, and then you have a chance to write code about when you've gone far enough and what you want to do then, right? So we're going to iterate through, but it's reduced. So we're doing a function that goes through and calls another function, calls itself again. We're going to use a kind of a recursive approach. So we're going to start at the left and we're going to make an accumulator. So the output is going to be your accumulator in reduce.
Yeah, keep checking the sum until you I guess you're going to check it until you go over and then you back up.
Then you got to make another item. Yeah. So we're going to have to reduce it and we're going to have a number and we're going to have an accumulator, which is equal to an empty array, right? So the sum of that empty array is definitely going to be 0. And this is going to be output numbers or output. I'm just going to, I don't like, but I'm trying to I like to make these words This is my expected output. So this is my actual output. There we go. So accumulator is sometimes a confusing thing to call it. It is what it is. In reduce, this variable is called an accumulator, technically, but it's not always the easiest code to understand when you read it. So I like to call it something like actual output or something that people are going to get when they're reading my code, right? So we could just put return number, and we're just going to get the last number, right? Why? Because we went, where is it? We went left to right, right? So the last number is 45. So if you always return number, you're just returning the last one. So that's not good, right? We don't want a number, we want an array. So it's kind of like test-driven development. You can, well, now I get an array of 45, which is still not right, right? Because I want, instead I want an array of other arrays, right? So let's do that. I need an array with an array in it. Why do I need that? You guys remember that? Because we're trying to make an array of arrays. So first thing I'm going to do is get the output type to look right. Right, so I want to go from an array of numbers to an array of arrays. So far, so good. Just it's not a very good array of arrays. Right, so why don't I try making every single number be in the output, right? So we'll take the actual output that we already had, and we're going to append an array of number to it, right? So I could do actual output plus. Now I got an array of arrays. See that? Pretty cool, right? I got actual output now, but they don't add up to 100, right? So what I want to do is either this, right? Stick them all in the array. Well, now it gets too big. Or if I've gone over 100, I want to add one, right? Right? So I need to have a conditional in here, don't I? You guys see what's happening? So let's do it with comments, right? So this is going to be, normally so this little 2 arrow thing means append a number, right? To the existing array, because I started with that. I started with an empty array, and I put one number on the end of it over and over and over again, right? So the second time through, I had actual output was equal to 18. And then the third time through, the actual output was 18.7, right? So now that's one way. So this is the if we are less than 100, right? I want to do that. And then the other thing I can do is actual output plus plus, an array containing a number. Oops, just plus. Sorry. There we go. This is if we are over 100. So how can we switch back and forth? We're going to need to use, like David said, the sum, right? So how can I test it as I go? Let's do this. I'm going to use a temporary object in the middle. This is going to be the new output here. That's not going to work because I'm going to have to read actual output dot new output, because whenever you do that, no, that's not going to work either because I have to start with the array. Yeah, if I want to use it, I can't actually show you guys because I have not done this whole thing with an accumulator object. So we just need to use an if, don't we? We need to use a conditional. So let's just do it. If sum of actual output greater than 100, which one do we want to do? This one, right? Else, let's do the other one. Now, what's it mad about? Types array and number and not be compared. Why does it think it's an array? Sum of actual output is supposed to be a number, right? I guess I could start with 0. It's also not working. Oh, they are arrays.
Yeah, it's an array.
They are arrays. Yeah. So sum of actual output square bracket minus 1. I want to take the last item of the array, and I'm going to put an empty one in here. Okay, that's better. Oh, they're strings. Map. I have to cast them first. Map. Line as number. You called the function sum. Well, now it wants this. No. With the number 18. I think it's what's coming out here, right? Because 18, that means it went through the first time, but what I gave back, aha. It should have been actual output sub 0. There we go. You called this function, but it expects. So let's take the if out again. What I want to do is, I did it wrong. What I want to do is I want to build that first array in there, right? So if I come back to what it was doing, yeah, that's wrong. I need to take the last item of the array and append a number to it, right? Because if I don't, I get that. It started with this empty one. Okay, good. But I want them to go into an array, don't I? So I need to put that empty array back in, and I want to put all these numbers in that, right? How can I do that? Actual output. I thought I could take the last item. Called the function with 2 numbers. Yeah, it's almost like what is being returned. Oh, I need to do this. I need to keep the, I know what it is. Okay, I'm going to go back to this. What's happening is this. I'm returning one of the inner arrays instead of the whole thing. So I have to actually replace the last item of actual output, don't I? So I have to do actual output, square bracket, 0 to -1, -2, plus that. But there's nothing there because I already, okay. So this approach is no good. I can't put the array in here first. I have to handle the first case. Why don't I just leave it alone and do it like this? When I start, if you don't pass in an actual output value, it'll give you the first 2 values to start with, right? So I could do actual output match case actual output, and then I can get the first case is number, right? I do something with that. I'm just going to put the number in here. Like that. Case else, we're going to do what I have down here, right? I'm still got the same problem. Somebody help me out. What am I doing? What's wrong with this? Am I doing it a dumb way? What am I missing? Yeah, you're welcome, Flavio. Bye. Because we can make it. Like if I just do this part, what happens? Came back to that. So I got 55 and 8. How did I get that far? Look at that. It broke on 55 and 8. Which is 3 in. So it started with these 2. It got to 55, and then when it got to 8, it broke. What is that? What do you guys see? Anybody see anything?
I'm trying to add in my head, but did it go over 100?
But I'm not checking 100.
Oh.
That is when it's supposed to do it. You're right, but it was accidental in this case. There's something wrong with, I think what I need to do is go back to using like that. So now it'll break right at 18 and 7, right? So it's never going to have this one. I'm back here again. Let me simplify. All right, so we're going to break on 18 and 7 because you can't append 7 to a number. You need to append it to an array. I think what I should do. I think I should actually use an accumulator object. It seems like a complicated way to do it, though. I want to make more items of the output array. Let's just do that. Let's just do that much. So I start with that. What if I just do that? Then I get null. Actual output. Oh. Okay. So the last item of it as well as that whole thing. And then I can do this. I can just try something. Attempt is going to be the double array thing, right? Square bracket -1. Okay, that does give me the last. So I'm doing something. I'm getting surprised by it. Because if you take the last item. Oh, I see it. I see it. Yeah. If we take the last item, we're going to return an array that is not. So I need to remove the last item. Oh, I need to remove the last item of the array. Let's go look. There's a way to do it. This is fun. All right. We're going to go to the arrays library. And I think can you drop the ones on the end? Drop the first n elements. Could do it that way. We could reverse the array at the end. No, we probably can't. Drops the first n elements. It returns the array when it's less than equal to 0. So it's pretty close. I just want drop on the other side. I want drop the last element, right? Splits an array into 2 at the first position where the condition is met. I mean, we can do it with reduce. This kind of looks this kind of looks good, doesn't it? Split an array into 2 at the first position. So I could check if it's 100, if it adds up to 100. That's cheat. I think we were trying to do a reduce exercise though, weren't we? I don't know what we're trying to do. What do you guys think? You want to go with splitware or you want to go with reduce? Yeah, see you, Mark. I think I want to finish oh, we want to do both. Okay. Yeah, I bet we do. We should probably do reduce properly. So what I really need to do is selects the first n elements. Turns an empty array when n is less than 0 and the original array when n is greater than the size of the array. Okay, good. So I want the length -1. That's actually pretty good. So we're going to take, oh, that's my wrong puzzle. There we go. So we're going to take the actual output. Oh, what happened here? There we go. Actual output, take, which means I need to import take. I need size of actual output -1. So there we go. And then I need to add square bracket minus 1. No, I didn't like that. It says that I'm giving it a null. So what if I do this? One line. Okay. And then what if I do this? 2 lines? Then it doesn't work. So it's the second time in that it does that. So the first time in, when I just have 18, I'm getting back all the, okay. Let's try this. I feel like actual output has an array inside it. And what I want to do is take whatever's first in it. So let's say I put 1 in here just to make it work. 1 and that, right? And I want to do take size of actual output minus 1. I want, okay, that didn't do what I thought it would because I wanted the 1 back. So take does what again? Selects the first n elements. And what I got was nothing. Do I just take the size of? Oh. Let's try it. Take size of the output. And then I'm gonna add on. So that's that. Plus 2. Okay, look at all those 2s. They got added where I did not expect. Yeah, good. So we're gonna take that and we're gonna add the number we're on now needs to go at the end of the first one. So actual output, square bracket minus 1, plus the number. Getting better. I now need to do this. 18, 18, 7. Okay, good. We're starting to do it. So what if I get rid of that now? Okay. So it's, I thought if we do the, yeah, there we go. Good. So, okay. So this part is so far, right? And then we've added to the numbers. So yeah, we can now append to the first array. And now we want to stop doing that when it reaches 100, right? Good. This is the so far part. Give me the array that's already there so far and then add that. I feel like I'm doing this the hard way. Does anybody see the easy way? Probably split while. Probably split where is the easy way. Yeah. Let's do it though. Well, checking time, it's 12:23. So let's see if we get to 100. All right, what we want to do is a do. So you guys, there's a function called do in DataWeave where you can kind of make a local variable scope. So let's do that. So I just put it inside this thing called do, and that allows me to make variables like we were doing in our last puzzle. See, but local variables. So I can take this whole thing. I wanted to have everything up to now, and then put the last item with the number on the end of it, but I don't always want that. So everything up to now, I definitely want to keep. Var so far equal that, right? Then I can do so far and append something to it. There we go. It's a little easier to read. And now we're going to decide what we append to it. So if So then I have to do off by 1. The number we're on now might make us over 100 or not, right? So actually, we are assuming we're not over 100 to start with. Yeah. Yeah, very, very good, actually. Actually, I can do this. I can do this again. We can decide that we're appending something only if we're over 100 already. So basically, when we get here, that far, we want to stop and make a new array. Right? So what if we do like this? This is the bar bigger array is equal to that. Right? And then we can go ahead and make a new array only if we're over 100. So I wonder if I can do it like this. I cannot do that. I only want to put an empty array on the end if we're over 100. So I'm going to start that far. Okay, so I do have to do it at the beginning. At least right now I do. Sum of bigger array less than equal 100. Then I want to do that much, right? Right. Else, I want to do almost the same thing. So far, bigger array. And then at the end of it, I want to put one more thing. An empty array. Ooh, I got it off by 1. We got so close. 18 and 7 is 25, and 55 is 70. No, this is not an even number, so I definitely have to. It's not a it's not a less than equal issue. We're almost there, guys. How do we make it stop at 100? We got it to break it up. I just need to break it up 1 round early. Instead of putting this on the end afterwards. Oh, we don't want to make the bigger array at all if it's too big. Yeah. Okay, so that's easy enough. Yeah, that's easy enough. So the bigger array is not what I want. I want, in this case, if the sum is less than equal 100, I'm okay. If it's too big, I don't want the bigger array. I actually want this here to go there, and I want the number to go here. There we go. You see what happened? I couldn't go ahead and add the number because it was already going to be over 100, right? So now I put the actual old one in there. Let's check his output. Did we do it? I think we did it. Let's see. So there's the expected output. And here's the actual output. Let's see how we did. Green check, red X, what do you guys think? Did we do it? Let's see. 7, 55, 8, yep. 1920, yep. Yay! All right. I do think reduce was the hard way. And that's the reason I warned you at the beginning, Prakash. It's a very powerful tool, but it's a lot of trouble to use. The easy way is to go find functions that they made for us already, like splitware, which is it's probably made out of reduce, right? So it says, give me 2 at the first position where I get over. And so it would have done a bunch of that reduce stuff for us. But I think we're at 12:29 Central, 1:29 Eastern. So we do need to wrap it up. Let me go. I hate to, it seems like these sessions are so short. So let me see, do I have it up? Let's do the final slides and we will invite you to a future session. The session was a little harder to use. We'd love to hear from you. We just started some new security measures because of an unfortunate incident at our last DataWeave meetup. We'd like you to bring more people. If it was inconvenient because of all the security, let me know. Send us feedback on our LinkedIn posts or something. We would like to have you participate. We learn and study together, and this isn't like a classroom. So love to have you come. Thank you for coming. And we look forward to having you at our next study group.
Thank you, Ryan. This was good.
Thank you, Ryan. And Ryan, this recording will be shared with us, right?
I'm not in charge of that. I need to ask the answer. I don't know. I think
Okay.
so, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Anyways,
that's
thank you very much.
Diane.
Actually, it was a very interesting session.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Nice job, Ryan. Great timing.